Doug, you guys reached an agreement in principle with the Treasury Department on the payroll grants for $5.8 billion. How much will this tide you over, at least in the near term, to ensure that the payroll can be met, so to speak?
Yeah, look, Phil, it's great news. It's great news for American. It's great news for our customers and our team. It's great news for the industry. We certainly, last time I talked to you, we were in the middle of negotiating this, and it went through some tough times in getting through it, but we're really just elated to have that behind us. It's incredibly important, given where demand for air travel is right now, and we're extremely pleased that the government has recognized the importance of the airline business and our retaining critical service and keeping our team employed. So it's extremely important and great news.
Doug, you've already said that you plan to apply for a loan from the Treasury Department in the other $25 billion bucket that's been set aside for the airline industry. Beyond that, do you expect to have to borrow more in the months ahead from the private market in order to continue to fund the operations the way you want to have them funded?
That's unclear, Phil. I mean, it depends so much on how demand recovers, when demand recovers, and how quickly. What I know is this. We, as an industry, asked the federal government for $50 billion of assistance, and that's what we got, $50 billion of assistance. That's what we all believe we need to ensure that we can ride through this. And, it's clearly you can come up with more dire circumstances than where it stays like this for an extended period of time. But from our own projections, that it stays like this certainly through the second quarter, a very gradual recovery through the third and fourth quarters. This will be more than sufficient.
Which gets to my next question. Yesterday, the TSA screened a record low number of people at airports in the United States, just over 87,000. Do you believe that we are close to a bottom here? And more importantly, at how far out will it be for you guys to say, okay, we're starting to see bookings increase? We know we're not going to see a V, but we're starting to see an increase. Is it usually 6 weeks out, 8 weeks out? When do you sense that you will start to get some sense of, okay, people are starting to fly again?
Yeah, a question we all want to know the answer to, and I don't know that anyone really does know. As to your question, are we at the bottom? It certainly feels like we're at the bottom. Our revenues are down 90% on year-over-year basis, and they've been that way now for a few weeks. So the real question is, how long do you stay at the bottom, and when do we begin to recover? I don't think I know that any better than anyone else. It's not that depends on when our country starts moving again. It depends on when people feel comfortable. It depends on when Disneyland opens and shelter-in-place restrictions are lifted and corporate restrictions on travel are lifted. So we don't know. What I know is now we're prepared for whatever kind of recovery it takes, which is extremely important. I will say that just in the last week, we've started to see bookings outside of 90 days start to tick up a little bit. That, again, those can be changed in the future. That doesn't seem to be the case, but that seems to be a little bit of an indication that maybe our country's ready to get moving again. We have our sales team tells me we're being asked to work on conventions in the fourth quarter. That certainly isn't going on in the second and third quarter. So there are indications that the world is ready to start traveling again, but they're very preliminary, and it's certainly not happening today. But we're prepared for whenever people are ready to start traveling again. Our team's going to be in place and ready to take care of them, which is what really is really important news about this act. It ensures that our team will be here, ready to take care of the flying public when they're ready to return.
Doug, Morgan Brennan here. It's interesting to hear you say that, especially since we had the CEO of Carnival on CNBC yesterday, and one of the things he said is they're starting to see bookings activity in 2021 begin to return. But in the meantime, in the near term, given the fact that there still is so much uncertainty about what this recovery actually looks like and when it truly takes hold, in terms of some of the other levers that you're able to pull with your business, we had more 737 MAX order cancellations reported by Boeing yesterday. Are you scrapping purchases, be it that aircraft or others, in the meantime?
No, Morgan, what we're doing instead is retiring older aircraft sooner than we would have. We have while we have the youngest fleet of the major airlines, we still do have some airplanes that we were planning on retiring over the course of the next year and a half. Some 757s, some 767s. We're going to accelerate that process. So we will come out of this with a smaller fleet than we entered and smaller than we expected to be flying through the second and third quarters. But at this point, the new airplanes that are scheduled to come, we want. They're great aircraft. They'll replace some of those airplanes that are leaving, and we don't have any intention of working with the manufacturers to defer or cancel any of those orders.
Hey, Doug, it's Dominic Chu. I'm actually in studio right now, so I'm one of the handful of Americans that's out there getting some semblance of normalcy back to their lives. It means I have to commute to work. I have to actually fill up my gas tank. I'm paying a lot less for it these days. Oil prices are down precipitously over the course of the past several months right now. How does it make you feel as an airline executive knowing that one of your prime costs is as low as it is right now and that you are not able to take advantage of it? And how exactly do you plan for those fuel costs going forward as well?
Oh, yeah. Look, it certainly ameliorates the problem, but not in a very significant way when we don't have 90% of our revenues. And as a result, we're flying only about 20% of our schedule. So, but looking forward, we look to the forward curve, and we look to demand for oil. And what I do believe is if this is a very slow rebound, you'll see you'll see oil prices not increase at a very significant level. I think that'll help. But that's not the real issue for us. The real issue is revenues and a return of revenues. But oil prices at these levels certainly do help mitigate the problem a little bit.
Hey, Doug, it's Phil again. You and I talked about this, I want to say, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we were talking about what it takes to get people flying again, in addition to all the other stuff involving the economy. It really, you said it comes down to making people comfortable, to get back on the flight. And you're doing things like spacing people apart on aircraft, leaving the middle seat open as much as possible. Do you expect other steps to be taken, not only by you guys, but by the industry, in terms of, hey, do we hand out masks at the gate for people who want to wear a mask? What other steps do you sense may be needed as we work through this period of social distancing, yet getting back to our normal lives?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. What we know is, as has always been the case, people need to feel safe when they travel, and we'll ensure that's the case. It's certainly the case today. I was out thanking the team last week and had me going from DFW to Chicago to Philadelphia to Charlotte and seeing the team. And I can assure you today, there's more than enough room for social distancing on airplanes. We're making sure that's the case by blocking middle seats. We're doing extensive cleaning of the aircraft, fogging of aircraft, things that I expect you'll continue to see. And again, as customers return, we'll need to make sure that we are doing what we need to do to ensure that they feel safe on the aircraft. But again, I can tell you, we aren't seeing people not fly because they're worried about safety on airplanes. I don't believe there may be some of that. But the reason people aren't flying is because they're not leaving their homes, and because corporations aren't having people come into work. Once those things happen, that's when demand will recover. We'll make certain when demand recovers that our customers feel safe.
But Doug, to that point, it's Carl, by the way. When they do leave their homes and they are ready to fly, will there be some kind of structural change in seat configuration, in pitch? Will we be looking at partitions? And have you done any modeling as to what break-even load factors look like in the future? If you're going to put fewer people on the plane, what happens to the cost of a ticket?
Yeah, Carl, again, questions we can't answer just yet. What I know is today, again, there's more than enough space on the aircraft. We are today blocking middle seats. As demand recovers, we'll all be forced to deal with those issues. I don't think anyone's looking to take seats off of aircraft at this point, but that may be the case. But for right now, we're doing social distancing on the aircraft, making sure the aircraft, extensive cleaning. Those things I know will continue for the foreseeable future. As demand actually rebounds to a point that becomes harder to do, we'll have to figure out what we all do in regard to customer demand. But what I know is we fully recognize that customers need to feel safe when they travel. That's always been the case, and we'll always make certain that is how customers feel.
Yeah, Doug, there's reports that are emerging that U.S. airlines are now asking the FAA for permission to fly cargo in the main deck where passengers would normally sit, including maybe the option to remove some of those seats. Is this something American is looking to do, at least in the near term? And how would that help offset some of the costs associated with the plunge we have seen in passenger traffic? I mean, air cargo is actually an area where we're seeing some shortages on an international basis right now.
Yeah, and we're being asked to do some of that, and we're doing it as much as we can. It's again, one of these things that's helping to mitigate modestly the huge drop-off in passenger demand. So we have a lot of wide-body aircraft that are not being flown internationally, of course. So we're using those to both, through the State Department, help get Americans back to the United States, but also to move some cargo, really important cargo, by the way, medical supplies, PP&E, other things that we're being asked to transport. So it would help in some cases if we could remove seats and have cargo travel, also not just in the belly but in the passenger cabin. So we're waiting for FAA approval on that. Again, hopefully we can do that because I think it would help us help others.
Hey, Doug, this is Phil again. Which are you expecting to come back sooner, if you will, or do you think that happens at the same time? The leisure travel or the corporate travel? And which, I know you're concerned about all of your business, but are you more concerned about one or the other at this point?
Yeah, Phil, I don't know. I think they come back. I think they come back at about the same time. This isn't. Again, the corporate travel will come back when corporations decide that they need their team out on the road again. That certainly isn't going on today. So that will come back. There's absolutely pent up demand for that type of travel. So I know when that'll come back. The leisure traveler will come back when they feel comfortable traveling. And again, I don't think it's so much about being on airplanes. It's about having somewhere to go. The leisure travel is going to come back when hotels are open, when there are things to see, when you can go out to restaurants. So none of it's going to come back until we get further through this crisis and people feel more safe being around others or just even traveling. We're prepared for that. Our team's in place for it. We're going to be here when people are ready to travel. I couldn't be more proud of the team. They're out flying today. They're heroes in this. They're taking care of the customers that need to fly, medical professionals who are getting to people that need care, people that need to get home or want to get to a place that's safe, carrying precious cargo around. They're real heroes here, and I'm just so excited that we're going to be able to keep them all employed through a period that we wouldn't be able to do so if our government had not acted here.
Hey, Doug, it's Dominic again. We know so much. You're not the only CEO out there who has little clarity about what's going to happen in the future in the coming months here. I'm kind of curious, though, as a CEO of a massive airline operation, what parts of your business do you feel that you do have a good handle on outside of the employment picture now that the government aid has come through? Where do you think that American is best positioned, and where do you think that it can execute well, given the fact that 90% of your business is down year over year?
Yeah, look, first and foremost, we needed liquidity to get through this. And that was the biggest uncertainty facing us and all airlines. That now has been resolved. So we feel very good about this. We definitely are looking at, as we go through this, ways that we can come out even stronger, figuring out how we can be more efficient as we come out. We're obviously eliminating a tremendous number of expenses at this point in time, and we'll be very careful about what gets added back. We are indeed retiring aircraft sooner than we would have retired them otherwise. That allows for a better product, much more efficiency within our system. It allows us to come back gradually instead of bringing everything back at the same time. So there are a number of areas, and we're moving our attention to that point, to when we come back, that we want to come back even stronger and in an even stronger competitive position than we were before. But we needed to make sure we could actually get through this, and now I know that we can.
Doug, they say that beggars can't be choosers, but restrictions on buybacks, dividends, executive comp, the government warrants, do you see those as limiting your flexibility operationally, financially in the year to come?
They're conditions we are happy to accept. If you find yourself in need of government assistance, I think it's fair to say that until you've paid off the loans, for example, if you choose to take loans, that you don't have stock buybacks, you don't do dividends, that the money doesn't flow to your executives, so that you have restrictions on executive compensation. We're going to figure out ways around those, but those are absolutely fair things that we are asked to do, and we're certainly not complaining about them.
Hey, Doug, it's Phil. One last question from us, and then I know we've got to let you go. And this has to do with the fact that you're going to be applying for more loans from the Treasury Department. You're going to put in that application later this week, I think for a little over $4 billion. Do you expect any unusual terms, or is there any curveballs that you expect? Because during the grants, you guys were not expecting that 30% would be have to be repaid to the Treasury Department. What's your sense in terms of what the terms will be from Treasury on those loans?
Yeah, look, first let me say that while we were in negotiations with the Treasury Department and what we thought was most fair, I think they've been exceptionally fair on this. They're working day and night to try and get this country moving again and making sure that it has the liquidity it needs, not just for airlines, but for the entire country. They've been more than reasonable, including the 30%, to the extent they do want 30% of the grants repaid. It's repaid through low-interest loans unsecured low-interest loans over a long period of time. We appreciate that. They also were careful to make sure, as we've been going through this process for the payroll support payments, to give us guidance, at least indications, as to how the loan process will work, which has been very helpful. So based upon what we've been told so far, what we believe the case will be, they've done all the work they need to do. Frankly, our application is not going to require much more information whatsoever. They have what they need to do the analysis they need to do on the loans. So I feel quite good. We still have work to do, but I feel quite good that they'll be reasonable in this case too. Loans again that'll be at rates that are probably higher than we paid before the crisis, but much lower than we could do in today's market. Just to get to make sure that the taxpayers are being paid, but also that we have the liquidity we need to take care of our customers and take care of our team.